The night he fired everyone, he wasn't angry. That was the strangest part. He was calm. Painfully calm. Like a man who had finally accepted something he had been trying to ignore for years. This wasn't rage. This was disappointment. For months, he had noticed small changes inside the company. Meetings that used to last 30 minutes now dragged for hours without results. Executives who once talked about innovation were suddenly obsessed with protecting their own positions. Reports became thicker, but decisions became slower. Nobody was willing to take responsibility anymore. Everyone was playing safe. And a company that plays safe slowly begins to die. The breaking point came during a board meeting. It was supposed to discuss a major opportunity, a risky but promising expansion. Instead of debate, what he saw was fear disguised as logic. One executive after another presented reasons why it wasn't the right time. They spoke about market volatility, shareholder pressure, reputation risks, but none of them spoke about growth, vision, or courage. He sat there quietly, listening, not interrupting, not arguing, just observing. What hurt him most wasn't their caution, it was their comfort. These were people earning millions, protected by contracts, surrounded by luxury, yet terrified of making a decision that could challenge them. They had stopped thinking like builders and started thinking like caretakers of their own salaries. After the meeting, he stayed alone in the conference room. The silence was heavy. He remembered the early days when he built the company with a small team that worked through nights, argued passionately, and believed in creating something meaningful. Back then, they had less money but more courage. Now they had everything except hunger. That night, he made a decision that shocked the business world. He called each board member individually and thanked them for their service. Then he informed them their contracts were terminated, effective immediately. No drama, no insults, just a quiet and final decision. The media later described it as ruthless, analysts called it reckless. But they didn't understand what he understood. Companies don't collapse overnight, they decay slowly. When comfort replaces purpose, leadership sometimes requires protecting the future from the people who once helped build it. In the months that followed, he rebuilt the leadership team with younger executives, not necessarily more experienced, but more driven. People willing to disagree, willing to risk failure, willing to care deeply about the work itself, rather than the security it provided. The company went through a difficult period. Revenue dropped temporarily. Critics predicted disaster. But inside the organization, something began to change. Meetings became shorter. Conversations became more honest. Decisions became faster. There was tension again, the healthy kind that comes from people who care about outcomes. Years later, he was asked if he regretted it. He answered something that surprised many. I didn't fire them because they were bad people. I fired them because they had stopped being hungry. And success without hunger eventually becomes a slow form of failure. The truth is, his story reflects something many people experience. Sometimes the greatest risk is not failure. It's comfort. It's staying in situations that feel safe but slowly drain ambition, curiosity, and growth. Whether in companies, careers, or relationships, comfort can quietly become the biggest enemy of progress. That night wasn't about power. It wasn't about ego. It was about recognizing that protecting the future sometimes requires letting go of what once felt essential. And that's a decision few people have the courage to make, even when they know deep inside it's necessary.